It's widely accepted that gambling destroys lives. Norm Macdonald went broke 3 times because he had a gambling problem. It is basically taboo in every culture, and casinos are painted as an evil machine that takes advantage of good, innocent people, or it's a place for degeneracy. But honestly, gambling changed my life in a positive way. It taught me so many things about life that a therapist couldn't. To be fair, I only went to 3 therapy sessions for some lady to tell me that I should chase after what I want to chase. That was $360 well spent. To preface, I'm not a professional gambler. I only started taking gambling seriously in 2021, on and off, depending on other responsibilities I've had during that time. I was in tech for about a decade until I resigned last year to work on my platform Yippee to highlight niche aspects of the entertainment industry. The project is an absolute disaster, but saying that, I'm so happy today because of what I learned from gambling. I want to make it clear that I created this channel to talk about films, TV shows, food, sports, and other recreational activities, and not to give motivational speeches because frankly I find motivational speakers like Jay Shetty or Tony Robbins or even people who claim to be monks quite boring. Let's be honest here. You start recycling the same material again and again, and at some point you are preying on somebody's misery. And whilst I do think the road to happiness is really hard, I do think the configuration is straightforward. And I'm not a huge fan of nut grabbing, circle jerking, or you go girling, but the reason I'm making this video is because something really heavy all over the internet impacted me recently, and I'm really hoping that I can help at least one person with a bit of my dry humor. So please stay till the end. So let's get to my 4 main points. Number 1, fold all the shitty hands. It's okay to be card dead for an hour or two. There's no point in playing Jack 6 unsuited from under the gun or 2-7 from the cutoff, even if the 3-bet size isn't great in Texas Hold'em. Strong and patient pre-flop action will lead to easier post-flop action. Trust me on that. Now let me give you guys a personal anecdote. I come from a conservative Indian household. I can be a doctor or an engineer, and since I ain't putting in 16-hour studying sessions, I thought engineering would be easier. Well, long story short, even though I was an above average student, I was miserable. But who cares about college once you start making money at a company, right? Everything's going to be nice and dandy. I pretty much cried every day, either internally or externally. And I thought this is all life is. And hence, I was frankly one of the biggest assholes for a long ass time. My advice to y'all, please don't pity that person, but fold that person in your life. That person will either figure it out or that person will be this way forever. But you don't need to put up with that hand. In fact, you might make things worse. Now that I'm almost 33, I fold most of these hands. Pettiness, passive aggressiveness, gaslighting, manipulativeness, judgmental behavior, negativity, people constantly talking shit behind people's backs, or people always complaining about others. My mom said something great when I was younger. You can only wake somebody up who's sleeping. You can't wake somebody up who's pretending to sleep. Life's too short, guys. I say wait for that straightforward person in your life, unless you're a great post-flop player like Phil Ivey. I think Negreanu once mentioned in a Lex Friedman podcast that Phil would limp into every pot in PLO since he's a GOAT post-flop player. But that's something you have to figure out for yourself. I know my post-flop game is somewhat dictated by a disciplined pre-flop game. Number 2, are you playing bad or are you running bad? And are you sure this is what you want? This is something I took from Dr. Arthur Brooks, who's a professor at Harvard Business Management and a happiness expert. Lean into imposter syndrome, but don't give into it. But in Hollywood, a lot of people say fake it till you make it. Because let's be honest here, acting is make-believe, even if you're Daniel Day-Lewis. So which one is it? Or is it a good dosage of both? I'm actually a huge Rich Roll fan, who's a vegan triathlete, and he was on a podcast with surfer Laird Hamilton. And he said that when he's swimming now, he has to convince himself that this is fun. Now maybe this works for Rich, who's lived a hard life to stay away from other demons, but for most, that doesn't work. I say be brutally honest and meticulous on what you want and where you're at and what your options are. Phil Ivey's strategy when he was younger was taking a shot above a level that he dominated. So if he dominates 5-10, then he would go to 10-20, go broke, and then try again at a lower level. As much as I worship Phil Ivey, I wouldn't say that's the right strategy either. Analyze and keep everything clear, and be honest as much as possible with yourself without crushing that inner child of yours. I know that Buddhism dictates surrender your wants, but sorry guys, not practical for most people, and in fact leads to more confusion. And if you are having a discussion with somebody else about your aspirations or results, only take their opinion at face value if that person has a history of being brutally honest and totally understand where you're coming from. Back to my poker analogy. Are you running egregious bluffs against a loose player? Are you passive even with the second nuts? You're not re-raising the river against a fish? Are you playing drunk or stoned or sleepy? I know I'm boiling the intricacies down a bit to make my point, but kind of go with me. Are you shoving with the top set against a novice and he or she gets around the river? Your ace is getting cooled after a pre-flop shove? Then you're running bad. This could work vice versa as well. You think you're dominating, but wait till the cards break even. But before you even come to this scenario, make sure that gambling is how you want to cut your teeth, because honestly, there's a lot of other easier ways to live life. Now, from a personal standpoint, I'm a very competitive person. For me, it's not so much as a dick swinging contest as competition is a place to push myself in. So I know my want isn't to recreationally play for fun at a game night or a trivia night with friends. Man, I sound like a sociopath, but it is what it is. And if I'm playing a sport, I need to know that I'm progressing to me or there's no point in playing. In my 20s, I would kind of just play recreationally as a social endeavor, but getting your ass kicked for a decade, even at something with zero stakes, does something to you, and you start to figure out who you really are. And even the folks who claim that they play for fun lose long enough and hear even a modicum of trash talk, the chatter will start. Number 3, please give yourself enough breathing room so the imminent results don't matter. This is in relation to point 2. The late great Doyle Brunson, the 10 deuce, is something extremely profound. Poker is a hard way to make an easy living. You don't have to be great at most jobs, but gambling is a sink or swim situation. When Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Damian Lillard, Dirk Nowitzki hit a clutch shot and the commentator says, he's got ice in his veins. I used to be fired up when I was a kid. But now after gambling, I realize that, wait, these guys still get paid even if they don't hit the shot. But pushing thousands of dollars into a pot, even with 80+% equity to win while waiting for the river, is a different animal. But life is more like gambling than a corporate environment. You might be doing all the right things, but the results don't always add up. And in this scenario, you can't exactly sleep with your manager. In 1-3, the max buy-in near me is $400. It's usually recommended there are 50 buy-ins, which is 20 grand, so that you're not expecting results super fast. It is important to sharpen strategy and fundamentals. Are you contented by your work? And I know the saying, you can always work harder if you sleep less or put more effort in, whatever. But what are you comfortable with? Ivy again said this in a Brad Owen vlog. Play at whatever level that you're comfortable with. Man, Ivy is a do as I say, don't do as I do, man. Whatever, I love him. Don't set yourself up for failure. And let your ego come in and say you can outwork everybody. Ego in poker, ego broke. But what if I'm broke or in debt? Now, I've been watching some of Patrick Bet-David's debates against liberals, and a lot of the conversation revolves around poverty. But when he offers all of them a job, they say, we'll have to see what the job actually is before I consider it. You're broke, you dumb motherfucker. Be realistic. I know that's harsh, but kind of mean it, guys. Whether you like it or not, there are practicalities in life, just like brushing your teeth and taking a bath. And unfortunately, you do live in a capitalist country where money does matter to a certain degree. Do what you got to do to stay afloat and take care of your necessities, please. Now, I know this is easier said than done, and I'm not unsympathetic about your position. But if there is a route, please take it, I beg you. But go to sleep knowing you will get your shot in due time. And before you take your swing, make sure you got that breathing room. So there's an emotional roller coaster. And if you miss, there will always be another swing. You just got to go find it. Number 4. This is the most important one in my opinion. Don't ever go on tilt. All right, this is a ridiculous one since we've all gone on tilt at some point in our life. Molly's Game has the best tilt scene I've ever seen. You will not be aware of your external trigger until it hits you, and usually it's in the form of a contentious situation or a person that displays an ample amount of animosity. And I am a guy who would go full tilt all the time, even if there's a small stressor. But gambling really exterminated that side of me. Well, unless you ask my wife, she'd probably say something different. But anyways, you can never really step into somebody's shoes and understand why anybody's behaving a certain way, no matter how much information you have about them. Now, asking for a particular social etiquette from everybody is not realistic in any situation. So the only thing you can control is your emotions. Some guy's talking trash to the table and you clap back and now you're out for blood. But in reality, the 7 other players can smell your blood. So do what you got to do to take it easy after you recognize you're on tilt. Walk away from the table, deep breaths, maybe a smirk or a laughter, or be Alan Keating, who's just a smile demon. Again, ball's in your court. Now, I want to emphasize the last one. The reason I'm making this video is because Detroit Pistons sharpshooter Duncan Robinson's brother Eli suffered from schizo and substance abuse and took his own life. The rate of male suicides are increasing, and I also saw the story from Chicago where a 26-year-old Indian man, Chandu, took his life because he's unemployed and facing financial burden. 26 years old. And honestly, I can't stop thinking about these stories. Especially the last one. 26-year-old, that's a young pup who has more life to see. Now, I want to make it clear, not for a second, I've had these morbid thoughts, so I can't pretend like I can relate. But to all of you out there whose job's a joke, broke, and love lives DOA, I'm not going to tell you guys to pick up the phone and start dialing, like Belfort and Wolf. As much as I love David Goggins, I'm not going to tell you guys to stay hard. As much as I love Andy Elliott, I'm not going to tell you guys to go get a six-pack. As much as I love Michael Jordan, I'm not going to tell you guys to take things personally. But at the same time, as much as a fan I am of Neil Brennan and Michael Rosenbaum's podcast Inside of You, is talking about traumas all the time the solution? These guys have been great in getting celebrities to be vulnerable and put out the thought that success and physical appearance might be deceiving to what's actually going on inside somebody's head. But it's kind of the same story again and again related to depression and substance abuse. So we all kind of got the same story. But I'm also a huge fan of Huberman and Chris Williamson. But is looking at collective group data and optimizing every aspect of life lead to all psychological aspects to fall into place? Maybe. But this is what works for me. I think life should be treated like a business. Focus on growth potentials and revenue in what you want to focus on rather than putting a magnifying glass on minimizing costs. Bitching about traumas to your therapist or stewing in negative situations, fair solution in the short term, but I don't think it's a long-term solution. In fact, it turns into a crutch. You got to figure out what growth excites you. Life is short, but 24 hours can be a long fucking time. So the more seconds, minutes, and hours put towards something that fires you up would be a better solution, along with incorporating the 4 principles that I mentioned earlier. Again, I understand this is easier said than done, but let's take me as an example. Now, I understand I'm a novice at content creation, but this shit fires me up, man. I might not make a penny from this, and let's be very honest. I'm not great at it either, but I'll get better. But this is my growth regardless of my success. The day might come that I need to go back to an office or take a break from this channel to professionally gamble and do a spin-off channel for socioeconomic reasons. But I'm very clear what fires me up. I am a professional hedonist and I love working on this channel because I learn different skills, have different experiences, and have the ability to put my thoughts about different trends in a space I feel comfortable with. I'm very clear about this. This is easier asked than answered, but what fires you up? And be honest. It could be anything, literally anything, and hold on to it. Think about it every day. It could be something trivial as well, and then you work the rest of your life around it. But what I will say to all of you guys who feel stuck is, it's not your fault, son. Life's hard, but please stay with me. We'll struggle together. All it takes is that one hand, that four-way pot, or before you know it, a bunch of small cards went by and now the count is at plus 20 with 3 decks left, and you bet big and get a blackjack. That could be the right person walking into your life. That could be a movie. That could be a book. That could be a hobby, or that could be a job. But stay with me. Tomorrow will be better. I promise you guys. My name is Nilesh Balaji. Hit your boy up with a like or subscribe. And I really hate putting out sad content. The internet is turning into a bit of tragedy porn. But if you stayed here till the end, I really appreciate you guys for listening. I really do. And please stay tuned for more content. Thank you guys so much. Bye.